The senator from Montana.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the people all around this country, and Montana is no exception, are looking at the actions here in Washington, D.C., and they're shaking their head in disbelief. They're shaking their head in disbelief because the government is shut down, but yet a bill has passed the Senate, and if the Speaker of the House would offer it on the House floor, it would pass the House and the government wouldn't have to be shut down. And then all the resolutions, or all the resolutions put forth on the other side, and some on this side, quite frankly, about opening different areas of the government would all be settled because government would be open. Look, a previous speaker this morning said we shouldn't be dealing with the overall government. We should be dealing with this in piecemeal fashion. Really? Really? So who determines who gets help and who determines who doesn't? The fact is the government provides some pretty essential services to folks across the board. And to stand up here on this floor and cherry pick certain pieces of the government to fund and not is totally unfair. And quite frankly, those groups know that they're being used as political pawns in this process. We started out this negotiations with a CR that it was at $1,058 billion. We compromised that down to a point of $986 billion, somewhere around $70 billion reduction, real money, significant compromise. The House came back and said, no, that's really not good enough. We want that $986 billion figure, and then we also want to defund the Affordable Health Care Act. Why? Because, my goodness, it's the most terrible thing. There's all sorts of reasons given on the floor why the Affordable Health Care Act is so terrible. Look, I had a flat tire on my truck last week. It was the Affordable Health Care Act. I ran out of fuel in my fuel tanks. That doggone Affordable Health Care Act. Look, let's get the Affordable Health Care Act implemented, and all these bogus excuses about why it's so bad will go away. And people will get the advantage of affordable insurance once again. Not government health care, but affordable insurance so they can afford to get sick. But aside of that, the repeal of it was turned back, so then they came back with a delay of 1 year, and then they also said, oh, by the way, if you work for Congress or you're a member of Congress, we're going to take away any sort of insurance benefit you get whatsoever, which was interesting. Because quite frankly, as members of Congress don't want that insurance benefit, they can turn it back, and I anticipate some will after the Affordable Health Care Act is put into place. I doubt that very much. But instead, what happens is we turn that back, and now we're in a situation where we have sent back a clean continuing resolution at $986 billion, and the House, if the Speaker would put that bill on the floor, would pass, and we could start doing the business of this country once again. Rather than sitting here in a government shutdown where things aren't working, we're not addressing the issues that need to be addressed in this country at all. But when we take a look at whether we're going to fund certain programs, I want to just talk about a few, just very briefly, before I kick it over to the Senator for Colorado. We've got intelligent folks that aren't on the ground. We've got folks that are fighting in theater right now that need that intelligence. Whether they get it or not is up in the air. The folks who protect our clean water and our clean air are off the job. Clean water, our most important resource, they're not there to make sure that it remains clean. Kids on Head Start, food inspectors, research into energy so we can have a 21st century economy and affordable energy in that 21st century. They're all off the job. Domestic violence and folks who are impacted by domestic violence. Their shelters are determining right now whether they turn away those victims of domestic violence. And the list goes on and on and on. Whether we're talking about the Centers for Disease Control, or we're talking about logging and salvage sales, whether we're talking about allowing wells to be drilled in the Bakken, all stopped. And why? Why? Because of a Speaker of the House who, by the way, a previous speaker just said they were very proud of him. But why has it stopped? It's because of a Speaker of the House that doesn't have the internal guts to put this on the floor and let it pass the House of Representatives and put this country back to work and start doing the things that we need to do in the halls of the Senate and the halls of the House that are important for this country. Whether it's a farm bill or housing reform or a defense authorization bill, the list goes on and on and on. But instead, we deal with a totally self-inflicted crisis supported by people who want to shut this government down and, regardless of what they say on this floor, are very happy because this government is shut down. It is time, members of the House of Representatives, that you demand that the Speaker put that bill up so you can vote on it so we can get back doing the business of this country. With that, I yield the floor.